ik ben Nina Hagen in Amsterdam hier am AIDS-Kongress. Ich weiß jetzt nicht, ob ich in Englisch praten soll oder lieber in Deutsch. I think I speak in English for you. I'm here with a team of a cameraman and a sound man and a light man, and we're here to make a documentary, ask many different people what they think about AIDS, because what is so interesting is that you don't have to die from AIDS, and that you that it's not ansteckend. You don't just get it like that.
My name is Michael Callan, and I'm a person with AIDS.
Yes, you wrote a book on it. What was the basic line about it?
I've written a book called Surviving AIDS, which is about long-term survival. I'm a long-term survivor, and I have interviewed 4 other long-term survivors of full-blown AIDS.
How long have you survived?
It will be 10 years in June.
Good afternoon. You wrote a book on AIDS. What's the basic line of the book?
It is to look into the origin of the epidemic, but also in the last chapter it's about the treatment of it.
What's the origin?
What I state in the book, I've looked into about 12 different theories, and I stay for 2 of them. And one of them is the African monkey theory that has been widely published, but it's a very big myth. And then the other theory that I go in for is a laboratory one, that it was a recombinant virus created in a laboratory by man.
You say that the virus was made in a laboratorium and escaped.
I looked into that theory,
yes,
and I find that the most probable theory so far.
Why?
Because there's, when looking into it, I divide it into 5 parts. When I see the first patients to appear, you have an epidemic center, and that happened in New York in the very beginning of '79. And then about half a year later, you have a second epidemic started in Los Angeles. And when you look at those patients, and when you look what happened before, there was a trial of hepatitis B trial vaccine. And that vaccine they tried on homosexual, healthy, young, well-educated men. And when you compare that one to the first 26 victims of AIDS, you have the same properties of those first 26 victims. They were all young, previously healthy, homosexual men. They were mainly white, they were well-educated, and so on. And for me, I can't explain that without involving some human manipulation.
What do you mean by human manipulation?
It can't happen by nature, just by chance, by random. It's almost impossible. But also, when you go even further back, was there any human being interested in such a new viruses? And then you have to go to see for the appropriations for the biological warfare. So already in '69, they wanted to create a new infective microorganism. And maybe I could even show it to you. So if you look at this one, where it is the hearings for the House of Representatives in US in 1969, before the budget for '70. Then they said that the scientists had said within the next 5 to 10 years it would probably be possible to make a new infective microorganism which could differ in certain important aspects from any known disease-causing organisms. Most important of these is that it might be refractory to the immunological and therapeutic processes upon which we depend to maintain our relative freedom from infectious disease.
Professor Duisburg, good afternoon. You're presenting here a thesis at this Congress. What is the basic of your thesis?
That AIDS is not an infectious disease and is not caused by HIV. AIDS is a disease that is caused by drugs. In the Western world, it's recreational drugs like cocaine and heroin and all sexual stimulants like amphetamines and nitrates, poppers, and ACT, which is taken by 180,000 people now to prevent AIDS or to treat AIDS as an antiviral agent.
But ACT is something from the pharmaceutical industry. They have made studies of it. Isn't that good?
That is right. They should have, and they have made very little studies on it because they were under rush to come up with an AIDS drug, and so they have never checked, or at least never published, the long-term effects of ACT. But we are testing it now in people.
And what do you find?
That people with ACT show traumatic bone marrow toxicity. They have anemia, they need blood transfusions, they can't make enough red cells to breathe. They have leukopenia, the shortage of white cells and lymphocytes.
So you're saying really that ACT is really something which is causing diseases instead of curing it?
Well, that's what it was designed for. It was designed to kill cells 20 years ago, cancer cells. And that's what it's doing. It's a cell killer. How can that help anybody? It's very hard to understand for me. If you terminate DNA synthesis, you're terminating life. It's a central molecule of life, and that's what ACT does.
But why is it not forbidden then?
Yeah, you should ask somebody else. I'm asking that same question. That's what I came here for. The pharmaceutical industry is in business to make money. I think the scientists are more to blame for it, who are prescribing it and developing it. They should know better. The companies, their job is to make money, no matter how they make it here.
Even by killing people?
Well, they make B-52s, and they make submarines, and they make Messerschmitts, and they make cyanide, and they make AZT. If this pays for them, that's the business of business.
What do you think of this conference concerning AIDS?
I think it's an excellent point of view from many points of view, because until now I didn't realize there was so many points of view. I thought it was like anybody else who watches TV every day. It's a very cut and dried issue. It is not cut and dried. In fact, it's not even cut yet. I mean, it's still evolving, and we don't. How can you come out and say this is it and that is the end of it? And not only that, the traditional not Duisburg, but the Gallo and the Montigny, they come up and they act as salesmen for the AZT industry, or Burroughs Wellcome, and they act as salesmen for the World Health Organization. And we've seen this type of oppression before, and at that time it was called the Third Reich. And this is the impression I get from that, from the other side of this very clear-cut World Health Organization attitude is more to me like Third Reich attitude, not really concern for the health care of the world.
But concerned for what then? What are they concerned then for?
I believe that they're concerned solely with what I would call science being blind by one eye. In the United States, there is the one-eyed doe, and they're blinded by the one-eyed doe.
What do you think of safe sex?
Well, I'm not thinking about it day and night. What do you mean?
You think it's necessary? If I hear you so speaking, I think you don't.
It's very necessary if you don't want to get pregnant. Yes.
But if you don't want to get AIDS, is it useful?
I have no evidence that it is. They preach safe sex, but AIDS continues to spread. There's no evidence that it is useful in preventing AIDS. In fact, it can't be, if I'm right, because I'm saying AIDS is not infectious and it's not caused by HIV, it's caused by drugs. It's like wearing a gas mask to protect you from a machine gun, isn't it?
What do you think of the hypothesis of Dr. Duisburg?
I think it's ludicrous, and I really feel I should be clear. I think that Professor Duisburg has done a number of important, interesting things. He has challenged a lot of the problems that are inherent in the HIV hypothesis. And for a long time, he simply said, I don't know what's causing AIDS, but I believe that what you're saying is causing AIDS can't. Now they've tricked him into speculating outside of his area of expertise, and he has come up with what I consider to be an outrageous theory that AIDS doesn't involve any infectious processes. So I want to be really clear. I think that drug abuse plays a role in making a number of people with AIDS sick. I don't think it's only drugs, and I think it's extremely dangerous to tell people that it's irrelevant whether you practice safe sex or not.
All right. Good afternoon. You wrote a book on AIDS. What's the basic line of the book?